Coming up, we've got Brad Linder to talk about webOS, Android, and more on The Bottom Line.
Try GoToMeeting free for 30 days. Visit gotomeeting.com/techpodcasts.
Palm's next version of its webOS is expected later this week. The major update to the operating system should let users record and edit video, and webOS 1.4 will be ready for Flash. That's only if you have the pre. If you have a Pixie, you're out of luck. Brad, what do you think about this upgrade? Do you think people are going to get more interested in Palm devices? Is it too late? Are there just too many competitors right now?
Well, I think it's tricky. I think a lot of people were really looking for Palm to do something completely different, and they did when they introduced webOS in the first place. And a lot of people said, I'm suddenly interested in Palm again. Over the last couple of days, though, I've read a lot of reviews from various people saying that they're getting ready to give up on webOS. Now, these are highly technical, geeky people who, the reasons they're giving up on it, the touchscreen might not be as responsive as they'd like it to be, it doesn't have as many applications as the iPhone or Google Android. But I think it might not necessarily have the geek cred that people were hoping it would have. As far as a regular phone, I mean, it's got a web browser, it's got, a keyboard, it's got a lot of the capabilities I think that the average Joe might be looking for in a phone. The average Joe is not the sort of person who's going to be impressed by a 1.4 upgrade from 1.3.
Yeah, it's not going to drive people to the Palm. What about the Nexus 1? I know you've had some real, a long time with the Google Nexus 1. How is its user experience as a whole? How does it compare to some of its competitors? I mean, I'm sure you've played with a lot of mobile operating systems out there. What do you think of the phone and, I guess, the operating system?
Well, that's actually the funny thing. I've been using this guy for about 3 weeks. I've been writing a long-term review for Download Squad, which will go live on downloadsquad.com sometime in the next day or two. And I've been really impressed. What's kind of funny about my particular experience is I've been using Windows Mobile for about 10 years, but on PDAs. I've never owned a smartphone before. I've spent very little time with the iPhone, and it's really hard not to compare this to the iPhone. Mm-hmm. For me, it was really hard to compare it to an iPhone because I've never had one. But what it's really convinced me is that a modern smartphone operating system does have a lot of things that I've been wanting for years, and I just didn't realize I was wanting. First of all, Windows Mobile 2003, which my old PDA was running, there's almost no development for it. Even Windows Mobile 5 and 6.5, it just doesn't have that seamless integration with web services that I've come to expect now from an Android application, where if you have an ebook application, you expect to be able to download ebooks directly onto your device. If a lot of the applications that are really exciting are like the augmented reality applications, where you can hold up the camera and see if there's any restaurants nearby that have menus that you can read. And so sort of the user experience of getting used to a smartphone in general, I've been really excited about. I know I probably could have done the same thing 3 years ago or 2 years ago with an iPhone, but I've been really excited about Android. Something else that I actually read today that was really interesting about the Android versus iPhone, though, is that while there's still almost 10 times more applications available for the iPhone than for Android, the percentage of free applications to paid applications available for Android is actually much higher. And that's because Android's just intrinsically a geekier platform that I think a lot of people are developing for without necessarily worrying about, am I going to make money on this application?
Yeah, it's pretty open, and Google has always been encouraging application development with its yearly app development contest, where they've had some pretty cool stuff, like Eco Rio came out, and that was check your carbon footprint. I can't remember what won last year. I mean, this last go-around, but I know they have some serious apps. Now, speaking of apps, they have a nice open marketplace. Have you found any apps that you thought would probably never make it on an iPhone or any of these other closed environments?
I haven't necessarily found things that I think are that different from what I'd find on the iPhone, except for the fact that there's definitely, well, okay, no, that's not true. There's definitely applications. The big story this week is that the iPhone is sort of removing the porn and bikini applications. There's a lot of that stuff on Android. A lot of it's not very highly rated. And you can look at the number of stars or the user reviews, and there are so many applications. They're like naked women in bikinis, and you read the reviews, and it's everybody saying there's one picture. So I think people have this idea, like, I can make a lot of money by developing an application that would never make it in the iTunes store. I'll sell it through Android, and everybody will download it and pay me $1 because it's going to have pictures of naked women. But people aren't really excited unless the application is really a good application. So, for the 16,000 or so applications that are available in the Android market, some of them are complete crap, I'll admit that. But there's some definite high-quality applications in there as well.
How's the build quality of the phone? I mean, I've heard things about the touchscreen, and I've heard that it's not showing as great a color, gamut as some other phones would. Have you noticed anything good or bad about the screen or even the touchscreen? Has it been responsive?
Well, I read that same article this morning, and in terms of the color, it's kind of tricky because it's actually showing 16-bit instead of 32-bit color. You would never notice it though because the OLED display is just so bright and clear, and pictures really do look great on it. It's not the best phone outdoors, but generally, if you wanted to surf the web while you're sitting in the park, it might not be the phone for you. You're not going to have any problems making phone calls or looking up some quick information on it outdoors. In terms of overall build quality, though, it's really nice. I've been sort of shopping for a smartphone myself now since reviewing the Nexus One, and I checked out the Motorola Droid, which is probably the second most advanced Android phone. I checked out some Blackberries and some others, thinking that maybe I would really want a hardware keyboard, and I realized that mobile phones, the hardware keyboards are awful, and so the keyboard, the virtual keyboard on this or the iPhone are really just as easy to use in a lot of ways, if not easier to use than the keyboards on some of the competing phones that have physical keyboards. And it doesn't feel cheap and plasticky like a lot of other phones, especially Android phones like the T-Mobile My Touch, which I checked out. So, I mean, it's nice, it's thin, it's small, it's lightweight, it's, bigger than the old dumb phone that I used to hold up to my ear, so it does feel a little bit funny to make phone calls on.
Now, you used to use a Windows mobile device. You used to use a Windows mobile device. You must have seen Windows Phone 7 series, a horribly named platform, but apparently looks really impressive to me. What have you thought about it? I mean, I know it's a ways away, and I know a lot of people haven't gotten to play with it hands-on yet, but from what you've seen, what do you think? I mean, does it make you excited as a Windows Phone, a Windows mobile user, or do you think it's too far and different that people are going to be like, no, I don't understand this, it's too easy to use?
Well, I think they've done a lot of things right, which is that it looks a lot like the Zune HD, and the Zune HD I thought has a wonderful user interface. I tested one a couple of months ago, and I was blown away by how fluid the transitions were, how much sense the menus made, and how easy it was to use. The thing that really disappointed me about the Zune HD is that there's no real application market for it. It felt like having an iPod Touch with no applications, and it was priced at about the same price as an iPod Touch. So seeing that they essentially took what they've done with the Zune HD and said, that's it, that's the new Windows Mobile, makes me pretty excited. On the downside, people sort of talk about the fact that there's 150,000 applications in the iTunes App Store, there's 16,000 Android apps, and there's just a couple hundred Windows Mobile apps in the App Store. But there are thousands and thousands of Windows Mobile applications that run on earlier versions, 6.5 and before, and they're not going to run on Windows Phone 7 series or whatever it's called. And so I think breaking backward compatibility is probably necessary at this point to really spur some excitement and come up with a new platform that's going to do those things I said a modern phone should, sort of integrate with the web and the social web and these other things. But the fact that a lot of people are going to have to treat it as if it were something completely new and it's not even really Windows Mobile anymore because it doesn't run the same applications, that's sort of a mixed blessing, I think.
I think it's a gutsy move by Microsoft actually drawing a line in the sand. They don't do that often. I mean, I think they just now stopped Xbox Live original support, and that system's been out for, 10 years now. It's been a really long time. Actually, we're out of time. Thanks to Brad Linder. You can find his work at downloadsquad.com, including that review of the Nexus One. That's coming up soon. I'm sure it's a great read. I hear it's kind of a longer piece, but definitely going to read the 5,000 words I'm hearing. I'm Ayaz Akhtar, and thanks for watching.